So for more reaction, we bring in our senior U.S. correspondent, Mike Wagenheim. He joins us live from New York. Good to see you again, Mike. So the U.S. State Department is not commenting on the CIA report. It is a classified assessment. What is being made of the U.S. stance here, which many are describing as a mixed one?
You know, there seems to be this assumption within Israel and anti-Israel circles that everything Israel does, it's even mildly controversial, needs to draw either a firm measure of support or a firm measure of rebuke from the U.S. It just doesn't materialize that way. Not everything is going to draw a strong American reaction from one direction or another. And this is one of those cases. And State Department spokesperson Ned Price said last week, as some of this was unfolding with the raids and closures of these offices, listen, different countries read information and intelligence in different ways. And the United States doesn't feel that the intelligence being provided by Israel measures up to the level of designating these particular organizations as terror organizations. But that doesn't mean necessarily that Israel shouldn't feel that way. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially what Price said. And, you know, that's Israel's stance right now, is we have to do what we have to do to protect ourselves. You asked for the information. Here it is. You like it, great. You don't, it's okay, too. And we'll agree to disagree in a very low-key way. And that's what we're seeing unfolding here between the American and Israeli governments. You got to remember, this is all in the context of recent terror attacks that have affected American citizens in Jerusalem who just got shot within recent weeks. America doesn't want egg on its face when it comes to Israel dealing with terrorism. Price and others within the State Department have said repeatedly, Israel has a right to defend itself. It sees the information the way it sees it. It's essentially going to do with that what it will, whether the EU or certain EU members protest. And keep in mind as well, Benita, something else here. While EU countries, many of them fund these 6 or 7 organizations that have been designated by Israel as terror organizations linked to the PFLP, the United States does not fund any of these organizations. So in another measure, it's less skin in the game for them.
So, Mike, Israel has continued its efforts to stop these 6 NGOs from continuing their work. Given what you are describing on the U.S. side, are these raids here likely to continue despite this furor?
Yeah, the thing is, there isn't much furor from the U.S. side. Some within Congress, especially those on the hard left and the progressive wing, have called for Israel to backtrack, to reverse on this particular measure. They call for Israel to backtrack and reverse on a lot of different measures. Israel doesn't care, and Israel doesn't really bend to that particular wing of Congress, and they're not going to bend to that particular wing here either. Listen, the U.S. and Israel agree on about 95% of things. They disagree on the other 5%. They've got to find ways to find where they really get public about their disagreements. This isn't going to be one of those areas, Benita.
Always appreciate your insight. Thank you for breaking it down. Senior U.S. correspondent Mike Wagenheim, live from New York. Thank you, Mike.